Hello and welcome back, Gemma Bissix, to Soap Scoop, the Inside Soap podcast. How are you?
It's good. It's not been that long, has it? Since I was last on your Soap Scoop.
I feel like you are our first returning guest, which is amazing. Thank you for coming back.
Yeah, I'll take that as a compliment. I know. Well, like the thing is, though, she has been around a bit, hasn't she? You know, this last year.
She has, but we can't get enough of you on our screens. Now, we've got to ask you. So we spoke to you back in November. It was you and Tam, and we were reflecting on this amazing ride that you'd had on Hollyoaks. And back then, we spoke about the possibility of Clare potentially going back to EastEnders at Clare Bates. Did you know back then? Or was it already in the works? How did it all come about for you?
Break your heart now. I'm just like, yeah, the thing is there was an availability check going on. So I was aware that it was coming, but obviously it wasn't set in stone. And, you know, we have to keep certain things a secret, don't we? For the fans.
Of course. No, we absolutely respect that. And we're so glad that it all happened for you in the way that it should. So you must have been aware of the Nigel storyline while you were playing out all your stuff in Hollyoaks. So was it always a possibility that you might revisit Clare Bates?
Yeah, I think when I started in Hollyoaks, obviously Nigel had already returned. I think it was last December or January. So when I got the call from Hollyoaks, my agent was really courteous and just did give EastEnders a call. They didn't say what I was doing, but they said, look, Gemma's not going to be available for the next 6 months, just to see where it was. And they did sort of say that, you know, this is something we want to do, but it will be later on in Nigel's storyline. So it was something that I kind of always knew was a possibility. And just in the back of my mind was, you know, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't hopeful for it, because it's been such a long time coming. When I was back in it in 2008, Clare didn't get that reunion with Nigel. Even then, you know, we haven't seen Clare and Nigel on screen since 1999, I think. So that's a long time.
I hadn't thought about it like that, because of course you were back in 2008 and that was a very different Clare to the Clare that we knew in the news. So how were you going to pitch this Clare Bates now? Is she a softer version than the Clare we saw in of 2008?
Yeah, I mean, she's definitely still got a bit of a bite to her. I think that she, even in the 90s, towards the end of that, she did kind of went through that bullying storyline and things like that. But I think that it all comes from trauma. I think it all comes from losing her mother, you know, her dad being in prison, as in Liam, her real dad. And then obviously her relationship with Nigel. It was quite a tough thing, because then when Julie came along, she felt really pushed out. So when she came back to the square in 2008, I think that it was all a facade. She was just this, if you saw towards the end of the storyline with like Bradley and Dot, she was actually quite soft. You know, when she got found out and Bradley found her little black book, you could see that she was gutted. She didn't want him to find that. I think she was already changing at that point. Like I said, I think she's still got a bit of a bite to her, but she's coming back, and it's the vulnerability of, she hasn't spoken to Nigel in probably about 10 years, because they sort of had a falling out, because again, she felt pushed out by Julie. She went off and she's married now. She's got her own child. And I think that anybody that knows that becomes a mother, it happened to me myself, you know, that does soften you. It makes you understand the difficulties of being a parent versus being a child yourself. So, and obviously seeing Nigel in the state that he's in, I think is a real reality check to her. It's a shame, because I think she does feel that Julie has done this on purpose, because obviously Julie and her had a really volatile relationship. She feels it's kind of, you're seeing like the inner child of Clare. You know, I mean, I think she's 40. I think that's it. I mean, I'm 42, but she's always been a year or two younger than me. And I think that she really reverts back to being that child that just wants to be loved.
Yeah, of course. And all these feelings that she has for Nigel, how does she feel when she sees him in the hospital? I mean, viewers will have just watched your first episode go out, and then we've still got Thursday nights to play out as well. So how is she feeling after seeing him?
Well, I think that it's absolutely heartbreaking for her, because she just thinks that obviously no matter what or whatever illness he's got, and then I think anybody that's going through parents or grandparents with dementia, you know, the fact that he doesn't recognize her, I think she would never have even fathomed that in her world. So the fact that he doesn't recognize her is just, I think it literally knocks her sideways. And I think it's a really tough watch for the viewers to see that. And I think that all she's desperate for is for him just to recognize her. I think she gets quite a connection with Lexi. And I think at the start, she's a little bit like, you know, oh, who's this? Why aren't you back at school? And she's a little bit she pushes her to the side. But when she realizes that Lexi lost her own mum at exactly the same age that Clare was, I think she has a real connection with her. And then actually seeing how Nigel treats Lexi, thinking that she is Clare, I think gives her comfort that even though he doesn't recognize her, that he's actually like, he sees how much love he has for Lexi because he genuinely thinks that she is Claire. So I think that at least gives her something. But it was heartbreaking to play it because obviously I'm, so close with Paul. Well, I was back in the 90s. And having that reconnection with him, it was like, because he plays it so well. It's like actually watching somebody that you love being really, really sick. So playing it was, it wasn't easy by any stretch, but it was like real emotion. And I think Clare Bates is the closest character to me as a person. Because when you start character at the age of 9, you don't really know what acting is. You're playing a version or scripted version of yourself. So it's compared to something like Hollyoaks or whatever, where she's definitely like a heightened version of any human. Yeah, it's been really, it's one of those. It's almost like a bit of therapy. It's incredible to play.
How was it for you switching between the two Claires? Because as you say, Clare Devine, heightened, murderous vixen in Hollyoaks, whereas Clare Bates, you would have had to have dialed that right down, and they were really close together. So how was that?
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? We're doing that in the same year. I really wanted to make sure that, I didn't bring the Clare Devine to EastEnders. And again, I think that when you see the Hollyoaks stuff, it is so heightened and it's so, the red lipstick, the outfits and all of that sort of stuff. And the script says it for itself. No real human is a murderer without being in prison full time. But I think it was basically going there and just softening myself and being able to accept that. It's really funny being able to accept that me as Gemma is enough, because actually, like I said, EastEnders is really just a version of me and how I would play stuff. It's the closest version to me. And that's quite weird as an actor because you don't really want to put all your cards out on the table. But I suppose in a way it was a version of me. And I just had to believe in myself and go, this version is enough. Maybe not talk so much as quick as I do. But yeah, just being able to open up and, my parents split when I was 11 and I had issues with my stepmother and we're very, very close now. But obviously as a teenager, it's really tough to let another woman into your life and to share your father with someone. And obviously as an adult, I could look back on that now, but it was it's a weird version of sort of, it's actually opening up old wounds for myself and realizing that it's okay. Maybe not how I dealt with it back then, but actually maybe trying to deal with it and letting the scripts see a softer side of Claire, which I think that is needed because she was such a lovable character back in the 90s. And, we all know what it's like to put up a barrier and to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think that with Nigel's illness, there is no barrier that is able to, that she can't put on a barrier because it is just so hot, it's so gut wrenching and so soul destroying for her.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you've spoken already, you've had personal reasons for wanting to pursue this storyline as well with Nigel's illness and dementia.
Yeah.
You know someone, don't you, who's been through that. So how has that been kind of playing it out on screen and kind of wanting to do that justice?
Yeah, in my 20s, it was one of my best friend at school. I grew up with her father since we were like 9 years old and he got early onset dementia. He was diagnosed in his 50s. So we used to visit him in his care home and it went for quite a while, for over like 10 years. So I saw the gradual decline. It's really tough. And like I said, I haven't personally known what it's like to not be remembered, because it's different if it's your friend's father. If you're not recognized, it's not really the end of the world. I was just there for my best friend. But the way that EastEnders have gone together with Dementia UK and the way they've obviously got them involved in the script writing and stuff is incredible. When you see this with the scenes in the care home, I think that's in the Thursday's episode, they've just touched on it so brilliantly. I remember going into a care home my very first time and, you see somebody coming past sort of trying to take down their trousers, and it's almost like, or screaming like they're being hurt. And obviously you've got the people that work in these care homes are absolute angels because they just kind of go past it like there's nothing, Brenda's just doing that today. That's normal, but when you're someone like me, I think I was 23 when I first visited a care home for dementia. It was quite shocking. It's and you're there going, oh, is that person okay? And that, you're told just to no, just leave it. This is normality for them. And I think that's one of the hardest things is seeing that decline and somebody that you respect as an adult kind of going into more of like a childlike state and having to be cared for like they're a toddler again. And I think that is that is the hardest part about life, isn't it? That we start caring for our children, and then eventually they'll probably have to care for us.
Yeah, of course. And, you know, as you mentioned in the Thursday night episode, this is where Nigel goes to the care home. So tomorrow night, everybody, please tune in for the continuation of this story, because Claire and Lexi kind of break Nigel out of hospital, don't they? And they back to the square.
It's giving it like his last hurrah as such, because I suppose if she can't be remembered by him, she feels like she wants to do something for him, something that, you know, it's her way of connecting. And I mean, and that is quite a big step for Claire, because obviously when she was last in the square, she wasn't really the best, the most liked. So she then goes into a scene in the Vic where there's every single cast member there, and she's really, really vulnerable. She's really vulnerable. And I don't think Julie's very happy about that. Phil is more supportive, because obviously he thinks that, you know, let him have this last hurrah. He's so well loved. Nigel, the character, is so well loved by all the other members of the square, that they're all, you know, they make a cake for him. He's trying to drink his pint and recollecting stories and things. And, you know, there's some really cool stories that come out about, like, you know, about Phil and Grant and stuff when they were younger. And, you know, there's such a history there for everybody. But I think it's really tough then in front of so many other people not to be recognised. And I think it hits her quite a bit. You know, she sort of starts drinking a bit of wine, and she has a kind of set to with Julie. But I think that then that comes with maturity and emotion, and it comes from a real place of hurt. So Julie does then, I think she sees her maturity, and she has some sympathy for Claire, and we start to see some bridges being built, which is great. But I mean, on the sidelines, you're seeing Phil is really struggling. We're seeing his best mate, you know, declining. And I don't think, this is the thing he says at the beginning, doesn't he? Months ago, I'll always be there for you. I'll always look after you and care for you. And even seeing him, you know, how difficult it is seeing his friend suddenly not being his friend anymore, because he's just not sound of mind, and he's not Nigel anymore. There's some really emotional scenes in this episode coming up, really emotional.
Because at the end of it, I think it's Claire, Julie and Phil are settling Nigel into the care home, and we get the sense that this is really taking its toll on three of them in that moment. What's it like when they actually take him?
Yeah, well, it's so we go into the care home, and that's again the extras that were there. As you're walking in, there's noises coming from here, there's somebody running through the corridor, and it's quite chaotic. And it's, you know, even for me acting it brought back some, you know, it was really, really well done, and it actually brought back some feelings from myself. And then obviously Nigel's trying to, you know, he doesn't want to be there. He's like, well, you know, I don't want to be in this room. I don't want to be in this place. I want to go home. Just take me home. And obviously when you know that this is, especially the care home places are quite far and few between. When you get offered one, it's kind of no going back. But he does get quite violent towards Claire by accident, but he just wants people to get off him, and he just doesn't want people in his space. And that is really, really hard for Claire. In the end, she just bottles it and just can't deal with it, and just needs to, that's why she leaves. She just goes, right, I'll be in touch, but I can't cope with this anymore. And then that's when you see the breakdown from Phil. I mean, it really is just, and I feel that he can't do it anymore. And you see it from us all, that it's almost like giving up. It's like that Nigel isn't Nigel anymore. And you feel like you're letting him down, but you just can't see him like that. It's not the Nigel that any of us remember or want to remember. You want to remember the great times and the great memories. And again, which is why I say what the staff do, and the girl that played the nurse in the care home, she played it so well. They have to be so detached from it and almost look like they don't care, but of course they do. But they see this every day, and they talk about this thing called carer burnout. So where you've been a carer for so long, but it gets to a point where you're just burnt out. I mean, obviously Claire's only been involved in like 24 hours of it, and it was hard for her to cope with, let alone Phil and Julie, who have been doing this for months now.
Absolutely. And is this, will we see more of you as the storyline progresses? Because they're obviously going to tell the story of Nigel in the care home. So is Claire going to be, is this at the point where she's like, well, she obviously wants to resolve issues from the past, and time might not be on her side.
When you see the episodes, she does get a glimmer of being recognised by Nigel, but the majority, I'd say 98%, is not, and it's quite aggressive, or, you know, you're horrible, you're this, you know. And I think that for her, I think she really does believe it's too late, and I don't know if she wants to deal with that. There are discussions, and I'm hoping that Claire will be back for some more. So obviously, you know, as Nigel gets towards the end as well, I don't think that she'd miss the funeral, which, you know, there are talks about this kind of stuff, but I think that at the moment Claire needs to just, she needs to go back to her family, regroup. And I think really, if there's going to be any kind of reconciliation, it's going to be between her and Julie, because I feel that unfortunately with Nigel, it's probably too late.
Yeah, that's so sad. And
Yeah.
but I'm so pleased that EastEnders have gone to the lengths to bring you back. We've got Ross Kemp coming back, really kind of re-exploring all of that history. And I was going to say to you as well, well done to the continuity team for that scene that we've got between Chelsea and Claire, because I've seen people online, they've seen the pictures of Chelsea and Claire having a hug in the square, and they love it because they remember back from like 2008, even though of course Zara's in the role now. So yeah, that was really nice.
And I've known Zara from before, so it was really lovely to be able to have that moment with her. But actually, when I read the scripts originally, I obviously you don't have any say in what's going on in the scripts. They write it, you read it, and you act it, and that's it. And it was just, it's lovely because and it's actually got that thing that they have kind of been in touch, because she's like, oh, you still got that hunky husband, and she sort of talks about that, and so it shows that there has been some communication between them, which I think is great. Even back to the Lexi thing, when they wrote, obviously, when Lexi lost Lola, that she was 10 or 11, it's the same age that Claire lost Debbie. But when they wrote that, they never thought this is for a future story. But they're so good at picking up on things and how things organically just come together. But it is a world. It's a world of real life, EastEnders. And, that's what's so great about the research team, because they know their stuff, don't they? They know, they know more about our characters than we know about our characters. So I think it's fantastic that they've brought that in, and Chelsea becomes that kind of comfort for her. I think that otherwise she didn't really, I think Claire's kind of like, he doesn't recognize me, I don't want to go in, I can't do this. And she's the one that ushers her in and helps her kind of overcome that, and is that support. There was even between Peter Beale, because obviously Claire would have known Peter, so there wasn't any lines or anything like that in between, but as to come in, it's just like, we've got that kind of look. It's like, oh, all right, how are you? It's kind of, everybody knows who each other were or are, and especially the ones that were there. I didn't get any scenes with the woman that plays Vicky, but obviously Fowler, she would have known her, wouldn't she? When you think about the 90s and stuff, and who was there. But then you've got Cindy, Ian, obviously Phil, and there's Jack. I didn't see Jack this time, or Max, because obviously that was a little bit rocky last time. Maybe that's to come. Maybe that's to come. We don't know. But I would love for the future for them to maybe explore the stepmother thing with Julie and Claire. And obviously, because Claire's got her own child, maybe explore the difficulty of having a teenager herself, Claire. Because when she was on screen, I think my daughter is, I think she's 11 or something. But that kind of going into puberty, that kind of thing, and exploring Claire looking after a younger version of herself. Because, I'm doing that at the moment with my 9 and 10-year-old. And I tell you what, it is hard. I feel sorry for my mum. I'm like, oh, my goodness, is that what I was like?
Wow. Well, you're doing a brilliant job at being a mum and being in all these soaps as well. Tell me what it was like seeing Paul again for the first time after such a long time. What was that moment like?
26 years it's been. We keep in touch via social media, sort of, briefly and stuff. But we met up in the makeup room, and I saw him come in, and I just couldn't wait. And I just got up, and we both hugged. Like I think it felt like it lasted an eternity. It was just, and how amazing to not see somebody for that long, but have that real connection. And I just said to him, I said, I can't believe that I get to be part of this. I said to him, he's so well liked by cast and crew. And when you hear any stories about Paul, he's just so great to people, make people feel good about themselves. He's professional. And I really believe he was my mentor from the age of 9 to 16. I'm not saying I'm an amazing person, but I do treat people with respect. I treat people how I'd want to be treated. I know my lines on set. I'd like to think I'm professional. I talk a lot, but I'm professional. But he taught me that. And that's what I said to him. I was like, you're the reason that I've taken all of these great qualities into my adult life, because I learned from him. I never went to drama school or anything like that. I learned on set at the age of 9. And, someone like Barbara Windsor was a fantastic mentor. I've mentioned that before. And Paul was that for me. The funny thing is that I've never obviously we always had a relationship of like father, stepdaughter and stepfather. And obviously I was a child. It's so funny knowing him as an adult and seeing him being like a bit naughty or a bit cheeky or maybe using the odd swear word, or it's like, it's so funny. I haven't ever seen that version of Paul because he was always so careful around me. So it's really nice to have a relationship on the next level. You know, it's been, it's just been a dream.
It's the beauty of soap, isn't it? Only these programs can bring somebody who was in it at age 9 back to play their older selves. Like, that's just incredible. No other show on telly can do that.
No, nothing, you know, it's been going that long. The fact that, you know, obviously there could be recasts and things like that, but it's like, I feel so privileged that they haven't, I mean, maybe I've just got such a distinctable face, they couldn't change this face. But no, I'm just so grateful that they have allowed it to happen and to be organic and be me that plays Claire, because it was, you know, I mean, and I was on, it was on Instagram, EastEnders put up a post and Natalie Cassidy messaged and just said, oh, something about congratulations. And I said, oh, babe, I said, coming from you, that is just the biggest compliment. I was like, wouldn't it be great if we could have some scenes together finally? And she was like, oh, I would love that, honey. Hopefully one day. So, you know, even that, I mean, we've never explored the Claire and Sonia relationship from back then. You know, they were so close. And I just think if Natalie ever returns, I'm fingers crossed. I'm like, come on, Nat. I mean, she's doing so well on her podcast and stuff at the moment. But I'm like, come on, Nat, come back. Let's have some bits between us, which would be amazing, wouldn't it? Make her the godmother to my new child. I get her christened as she's older or something. I don't know. That would be great.
I love it. Whenever we chat to you, we always storyline the future, don't we? It's a way, and I've always got the idea.
But then I'm like a soap fan like you, and I think that's why I enjoy doing this stuff. And I always champion you guys with the magazine, because you're just, you know, you keep it alive, and you keep our stories alive. And I just think that without you guys, you know, it wouldn't be the same. So I love it, and I love watching all the soaps and seeing everybody, and it's a lifetime. It feels like, well, it is, isn't it? It's 33 years since I started. It is my life.
I feel like we've lived it with you from when you were 9 years old, and then you went into Hollyoaks, and then you came back as Claire, and then you're back in Hollyoaks as Claire, and now EastEnders as Claire. It's been a revolving door of Claires for you, but you play them both so well. And the other thing that I was going to say to you, of course, is that Christmas they did the special Nigel episode with Pat and Barry, and Nicola Duffett made surprise Theo. I don't suppose you didn't get a chance to cross paths when she was filming and you were filming.
No, I didn't, but I did hear that on the script that Pam's and Clement's Pat, because they didn't want to leak to people in the show that it was her. In the script, it was called Claire. So some people in the show were excited that I was coming back, but obviously that wasn't the case. And I think there was something, I don't know, Pat was smoking or whatever there was, because it was back in the 90s, or it was talking about a cigarette or something. And then they were like, well, Claire doesn't smoke. It was so weird that they couldn't understand how that, and it was just like a cover name. So people were excited about Claire's return, and then they realised it was Pam St Clements, absolute legend. Having Pat would just be the best thing, wouldn't it, to be in full time?
I know, Pat is the one that I miss the most, because she was the one that went between, because she had so many connections on the square. She was the one that went between all the storylines and almost moved plots along, and did it with such this, you know, brilliant performance from Pam. I miss her, because she was everybody's friend on the square, whether she believed in them or, you know, people like Janine that had these, you know, terrible kind of reputations, but Pat would
a bit like Dot. Dot was the same, weren't they? They were a similar kind of character. And I just, it's because obviously when I remember being in the show as a child, you had Ethel, you know, and Ethel was the one that, it was just that kind of, you know, that's been there throughout it all. And I was more gutted not to have seen Pam. She was just an absolute queen, isn't she? So I was gutted not to see it this time round.
She was my absolute favourite. It sounds, I mean, hopefully there'll be room for Claire to come back and kind of continue with this storyline. But beyond this storyline, if there was a chance for you to return to EastEnders in a more regular capacity, would you like to do it? It sounds like you've loved it.
I think I would. I think what it's been, so obviously when I've been up in Hollyoaks, I'm working away. I think I've spoken to you about this before. You know, the first few months was great, but after a while I'm up there Monday to Friday, and I really miss my family life, my children. This has been such a treat, because I mean, it is about an hour and a half away, but I can drive in the morning, do my day job, and come back and see my family every evening. It's been, you know, and when I've done theatre tours or pantomimes and everything like that, it's always away from home. So I've never really had the best of both worlds. Obviously, when I was on EastEnders in 2008, I wasn't with my husband, and I didn't have my children. So I never appreciated it so much then. This has been, as like ideal jobs go, I didn't realise how cool and how sort of heartwarming it would be. So I think, yeah, from a selfish point of view, as much as, you know, to be able to mix family life and work life, it would be, I'd be silly to say no. It would be ideal for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've got all our fingers crossed for you. We love having you in our world. You're just a delight every single time. And I know that rumours potentially that it might not be the last we've seen of Clare Devine. We won't spoil any secrets that you might be keeping.
Well, I had something in your soap scoop, didn't you? You did something in your soap scoop, and one of your issues that potentially Clare was spotted up in Liverpool filming. But there's bits and pieces, yes. So there's, you know, I don't think it's the last. I've always said this, even at the interview at the Inside Soap Awards, that I don't think it's the last that you'll ever see of Clare Devine, and that she'll just dip in and out as and when they need people killed off, or, you know, or they need some carnage.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Gemma, for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Everybody, if you haven't already seen tonight's EastEnders, it's available on BBC iPlayer, and the story continues tomorrow on Thursday, where we see Claire and Lexi break Nigel out of hospital. And then, of course, there's the scenes to come at the care home. So I think it's going to be really emotional viewing. It's lovely to have Gemma back. So, yeah, get your Clare Bates fix for the rest of this week. And Gemma, we hopefully will chat to you again very soon.
Yeah. Please support me. Please support Clare. Please support EastEnders. It's all great. Come on.
We will do. Thank you so much, Gemma.